A lot of time we seem to focus more on the outward things. We should be focusing more on our own creativity, but focusing more on the ethical side of things. It's not so much about you owning an aeroplane or you owning a big mansion in Sandton, but it's about looking at the bigger picture. We need to help our people get out of poverty, and that should be our driver of us developing our country. Not so much about accumulating assets for ourselves as individuals. We need to try and see everybody benefiting in this country. I think that's the message that he's mentioning. And Goldberg was talking about the frustration that he was having in terms of the level of corruption that he's seeing in the country. To say that this is not the struggle that they've entered into. So they wanted our country to be free of wrong things. So they're encouraging people to start to do things in a more ethical manner, and that is the way that this country can start to move in the right direction. I think that's what I wanted just to comment on my two slides. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so very much, President. We truly appreciate that very comprehensive presentation that touched on a lot of elements that affect us as engineers and also as South African citizens. You have said that our measure of success should not be on the accumulation of physical things that we can see, but we should measure our success on how much we contribute towards uplifting everyone around the country. Because we will not get very far with your jets, as you keep saying. We're not going to get very far if we are wealthy and yet 98 or 95% of our population is struggling. Eventually, you will be brought down from that jet of yours because you have to rise up with everyone. So as you were giving your speech, I was just thinking about when you were sitting to pen the speech down at the beginning of 2020 or the end of 2019, you had absolutely no idea how this year was going to turn out with COVID. And yet the items that you had in your speech spoke so much towards what's actually happening. I can understand the fact that you've had to add a couple of slides to speak directly to COVID, but all the issues that you have raised, it was as if we had the foresight as to where we were heading. So to sum up what you said, we've got 4 pillars that we need to look into. One being education. We have a very high level of illiteracy in our country, low level of skills. We don't have a pipeline of skills that are coming through, capacitating us to be able to handle all the projects and infrastructure projects that the country needs, which is a bit of a concern. So I'm hoping that the youngsters especially are listening and they will take education to be a priority to be able to become the future solution providers for our country. Youth entrepreneurship, procurement, and also leadership. With regards to leadership, I think I can't say this strongly enough to thank SANRAL for the leadership that they have shown with regards to trying to transform the country and the industry and being such a strong leader in transformation and trying to address the inequality that we have been facing. We are truly grateful for the efforts and we hope that you will continue with that willingness to be able to take the country forward. And all of those pillars are underpinned by governance and ethics, which is something that we seem to be lacking. The majority of our leaders are letting us down. The corruption that we have seen pre-COVID and during COVID has been alarming. And we hope that the leaders are actually listening and they will do something about it, because corruption actually steals from the very small purse that is called fiscal money. And it results in people really being in dire straits because they can't get the services that they need. No jobs can be, no new jobs can be established because of corruption. And this all goes to benefit the few. So we're really hoping that people are empathetic, the leaders become empathetic and listen to our plight to do the right thing. And you spoke about the GDP, how it has been contracting over a period of time. And we have noted the FANA path, which is what you'd like to see happening, the 5.4% increase in our GDP every year. It's going to take strong leadership, very creative solutions for us to be able to reach that. And I'm hoping that all the brains around the country will come together and sit at a table and come up with a way to address and for us to be able to reach these kind of numbers, which we really need. So I'm going to stop there because we are running slightly out of time, but I would like to thank our panelists for the presentations. We can tell that you spent a lot of time thinking them through, and you've addressed issues, current issues that affect us as an industry and as professionals. And we're going to go straight to some of the questions. I'm going to start with the questions that we received prior to the event. The first one will be directed to Mr. Essa. And it says, why is SANRAL still using the 1999 FIDIC Red Book when the CIDB SFU of 2019 has already excluded its use and prescribes use of the 2017 FIDIC Red Book as the main conditions of contract for projects for any organ of state? Mr. Issa.
Thank you for that, Rufilwe. It's a very interesting question. We are at a crossroads in our country now, where as SANRAL, we've been criticized by the Black Business Council, especially the Built Environment Unit, for using FIDIC at all. National Treasury has drawn up a whole new conditions of contract that hopefully they don't impose on us, but they want to introduce for construction projects. We're sitting there, and on the other hand, a certain institution called SAICI has approached us to use the GCC Blue Book, the 2015 conditions of contract. And now we have the 2017. The 2017, although CIDB has said that it should be used, that doesn't stop us using the FIDIC 1999. There has to be a phase over. The 2017 was introduced about a year or so ago. Not many countries in the world are using it yet. It's much more, places much more emphasis on the contractor. He has to be a lot more, let's say, professional, a lot more technology savvy, and there's a lot more responsibility placed on the contractor. So at this stage in the evolution in our industry, construction industry in South Africa, we felt it's not the right time to introduce the 2017 FIDIC. If we want to change, we possibly would change to the 2015, because we think the 2015 GCC is a lot more, let's say, focused on our South African conditions and South African law. So there's a big debate internally in SANRAL where we should go. If you look at the 1999 FIDIC, we only adopted it in 2004. So we're taking a look and see attitude to see how this thing rolls out in projects throughout the world first, what the experiences are, and how contractors are reacting to that. That's really our reason. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. So then the understanding is that we need a transition period. We can't just jump from one to the other without making sure that all the stakeholders understand what is required of them to try and avoid risks that could come from the implementation, the early implementation of new contracts. Okay, the other question, going to SAICI. It says that with the rising number of unemployment amongst engineers, what is SAICI doing to assist members? So that would be for either Vishal or for Fana.
Let me take the first response. Fana, are you okay with that?
And Vishal, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I think, thanks for that question. It has come up a few times, and I think it's really relevant. So I give full points for relevance in terms of asking the question. SAICI has found it necessary to reinvent itself, to be a lot more responsive to our members. And when you speak about unemployment or underemployment, it falls within the context of being relevant as an institution. Now, as much as SAICI cannot perhaps give a job to a person today, what SAICI can do is empower you to perhaps look at opportunities within your context and environment. Now, we do that in a few ways. Going forward, all our members, we would have, we've digitized, we are in the process of completing the digitization of the business. And that allows for ease of communication between members, between various types of members. In other words, student members, associate members, as well as the fellows and the like. But it will allow our members to communicate freely with each other, and that would be happening online. So platforms will come on stream in the next month or two, allowing that to happen. The other thing is, I'm finding that the level of complexity, as I indicated in my presentation, has increased over time. So engineers are not having things as simple as one might have had it perhaps in the past, where some of the issues that we are dealing with are a lot more in the forefront than they have been in the past. So that means we as engineers need to lift our game. And SAICI is providing that opportunity through the training that we are reorganizing to become a lot more relevant in the technical or the capacitating of our engineers that we think should make them future ready engineers to deal with that complexity that I alluded to in my presentation. The networking capability is also going to come online, where within the membership category that you are in, you will be also able to network easily. As you are seeing with these kind of conversations, it is incumbent upon members to actually participate. And that's where I spoke about active citizens. No longer can it be that we wait for someone to help us out. We have to become entrepreneurial to the smallest degree of trying to figure out what is it that we have to work with. And once you understand that context, you are now able to have a discussion around it with colleagues around you, with the SAICI leadership and the like. Our channels are open for communication. We are able to give guidance in that regard. There is also formal mentorship, and it's a lot more important now than ever before, because we are seeing the effects of job insecurity. And one of the things SAICI offers is a sense of belonging. So once you belong to SAICI, you stay a SAICI member, you become part of a fraternity and a collective that is not alternatively focused. Let me use that choice of words. So we focus on developing the individual and making sure the individual is best positioned for the environment that they are operating. And that's the intention of what SAICI will become, and that's how we will identify with the institution going forward. So in summary, as much as I cannot perhaps offer employment right now, because we largely run by volunteers like yourself, to keep this institution relevant, having these dialogues. And in my opinion, my parting shot will be on that question, is please remain a member. Please stay connected, because the world is leveraging of its connectedness. And SAICI provides that platform to stay connected and to develop yourself. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Vishal. Your audio was not quite clear, but I'm hoping that everyone managed to get the gist of what Vishal was saying. SAICI is going to be digitizing in order for there to be ease of communication. There is training that is being offered for reskilling and upskilling, and it provides basically a network where you can connect with people at different levels in their professions who can help you get to the next level of your career. And yeah, I think that's what I managed to grasp, but thank you so much, Vishal. I'm not sure if our president would like to add anything to that.
I think he was quite comprehensive. Okay. I think it's fine, yeah, thank you.
All right.
I heard myself perfectly fine, by the way.
Yeah, no, now you're fine. When you were responding, and it could have just been my on my side, that's why I didn't even want to stop you, but there was some interference with your audio.
Okay.
So Anonymous says, the construction industry is responsible for the emission of harmful greenhouse gases. Please comment on the benefits for environmentally friendly material suppliers. Which of you panelists will be able to address that question?
I can give a perspective from the Sandal point of view.
Thank you.
We have been concentrating a lot of recycling of materials that our roads have put. So there's a lot of more recycling we're doing. We are recovering a lot of the asphaltic materials that we've been using in the past and reusing them. We're looking at the use of wrap in our asphalts. We used to use 20%, recycle 20% into newish asphalt. We've now, on certain of our projects, have moved it up to 40%. So there's a number of things we're doing there. We've introduced also the warm asphalt, which is not mixed at the high temperatures of 160 degrees. These are manufactured at lower temperatures of between 100 and 120 degrees. And as I say, we're trying to use more materials. And this is where the nanotechnology and nanochemicals will help us a lot. Because with the right dosage and application, and this is where I say the research has to be done, to try and reuse even the lower calibers, you know, what we call the CBR 10 and lower than that, to try and use that, reuse that into our roads. And perhaps by strengthening the subgrades or under the roads, we don't have to go that deep anymore. So in that way, we can reduce the effort that's put in, because all construction and building of any construction project or any civil engineering project is about logistics. And the less logistics we have in it, the more or the less greenhouse gases we emit. So we're trying our bit, but in order to build sustainable roads as cost effective as possible as we need in our country, we still are a long way off from making a real dent, but we are working. Thank you.
It's good to hear that you are thinking of sustainability of the environment. And as you said, there is quite a broad scope in people going into research and development to come up with materials that are going to reduce impact on our environment. The next question is from Kevin, and he says it's for Sanral, so it's for Mr. Issa. Are there guidelines on the website of how we as entrepreneurs position ourselves for the Sanral opportunities that you spoke about?
There's no hard and fixed guidelines, but I'm willing to engage with people, and we can have a discussion around it. And if necessary, we'll do some presentations to smaller groups or perhaps more interested groups to look at that. But there's no firm guidelines there, but the requirements are captured in our tender documents and other documents, so we can make those available, and people can adjust and prepare themselves for the opportunities that our spend brings, our tenders bring in the near future.
Okay, thanks for that. The next one is for you again, Mr. Issa. To what extent has the COVID-19 impacted the operations of Sanral and issuance of tenders? And what lessons can be learned going forward? Engineer Tami Mpala, Vice President of the Zimbabwe Institution of Engineers.
Okay, from that point of view, there's been quite a challenge. We've managed to keep all our maintenance projects, so the routine road maintenance projects, going throughout the COVID period, because what we considered an essential service, and the government agreed with us, and we managed to keep that going. Some of the roads that were in construction, we had accommodation of traffic facilities set up. Certainly the one lane per direction, or this stop and go type of setups we have, those were kept operational. But it was a huge impact on us. This whole thing in financial terms has cost us about 2.5 billion rand, because we had to pay P&G to the contractors. We had the site teams, construction site teams, or the monitoring teams that were on site from the design engineers and doing the construction monitoring. We had to keep those in place. So all of those costs came to us. Now the sort of downscaling, or the ramping down to deal with pandemic or the lockdown, the ramping up, those costs are still coming through. So I believe that it will cost us 3 billion rand at the end of the day, which is really an injection from our side as SANRAL into the industry. We try to keep the industry alive as much as we could, staying within the rules, because we have Big Brother called the Auditor General watching over us, so we've got to do the right things and stick within the rules. So that in terms of cost that we endeavor, the positive side is that at the moment we only have about 30% of our staff in the offices. 70% of us are working, including myself, are working from home. And we're still managing to keep the wheels turning and everything's going on. We have suspended site meetings, so project managers don't go to site anymore. We have virtual meetings, site meetings. So it's brought us, let's say, a few steps forward on the technology side. Certainly on the tendering, all the tendering is now, you will submit your tender on a flash disk to us, or a CD. So there won't be the voluminous books and things that you need to send. It will be just a CD that you will deliver to our offices, and we'll go on. We will get better and better on that. Our systems are not strong enough to cope with direct electronic tenders, but we're working on those. And maybe in a year's time or 18 months from now, you'd have you can go onto our website and tender directly, etc. But certainly it was a wake-up call for us from a technology point of view. We fared better than some others, but there's a long way to go still for ourselves. What we're quite proud of, we kept the roads going. For a while, we suspended tolls. Of course, some people are very happy with that, but it does reflect the balance sheet, and it does strengthen our case for going on the e-toll route, where there's no interface between people and things like that. So if you had an e-tag, you had no problem. So I must do a little bit of a commercial here. Please get your e-tags. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for that. I think we can all appreciate SANRAL's intention to move towards direct electronic tenders. It's a pity that it had to take a pandemic to push us in that side, towards that side, but we're truly grateful that you're looking into that, and we hope that municipalities and other spheres of governments will move towards that as well. The next question says, I am a civil engineering student at the ITS University. I would really want to know that what SAIC has put in place to help its student members with the necessary training or VAC work as needed by the institution of higher learning. If it's possible for a company to give out training to a specific number of students based on its size. So that's directed to Vishal or Fana.
Maybe let me go first, and then Vishal can go next. Yeah, I think it's a challenging one because the need is definitely out there for the student to do VAC work, especially now. I can imagine during this winter period there was that need for them to do work, and obviously later in the year there would also be a need for them to do VAC work. I must be honest, it's a difficult one. I'll use my the company as an example. We have been working from home, largely all of us.
I work for GIP, as the chairperson mentioned. It's a consulting engineering company, and we have largely been working from home since the beginning of the lockdown. So it's only now, mid-July, that we started to open up to go to the office. And we have, in fact, even those that go to the office, we really say it has to be very critical. It must be, for example, where someone is going to print a big document, or is going to print a big report and stuff like that. So this need is very important. And I think maybe we need to find some innovative ways of doing some kind of online work. I don't know if you can find something like that. But practically, in terms of doing it in the office, which has been the traditional way, it is actually very difficult to do it. But I agree with them. We need to help them. We need to find ways, because some of them are in their final year and they would like to graduate by the end of the year when the year finishes. Yeah, but it's a challenge. I'm also agreeing with him. Thank you.
Thank you for that, President. And CEO, anything from you?
Yeah, I think it's it's about in keeping with what Fana has indicated. It's a difficult time to and many companies have moratoriums as well on employment because the work isn't there. So even if a student is employed, besides being difficult to pay a person, there's no work to give the person. I think that's the problem, right? So even joining an organization is not going to help anyone's career, to be honest with you, because I think it's just in survival mode to a large extent at this time. However, I did speak about a concept of time and using time meaningfully. I don't know how easy it is. I'm a student myself, but I have not looked into postgraduate type work just yet and the ease of getting into that, because it does buy time and it does lift one's capability. So students that are graduating could look back into the institution to stay a bit longer and enter into the honors or master's programs that would be on offer. I know universities really enjoy having many students do these programs. It helps the university become a lot more reputable as well. So I think there is an opportunity to perhaps look back into that and see whether there is small stipends that come along with these kind of studies, but obviously it's not employment. But what it does do is it makes good use of the time that one might have in this difficult time looking for employment. Okay, that's the comment I could offer in addition to Fana.
That's an innovative solution with regards to the type of environment that we're facing right now. So thank you so much to both of you, Fana and Michelle. Another question says, do you have any list of mentors in civil engineering? And that is for SAICI.
That's a very simple answer. It's yes.
Okay. And where do they access that list?
I'm not in Tabaleng. I think, do you know where that list would be? But I think we can share the details.
Okay.
Afterwards.
Okay.
I think on this chat, even we could share the link if necessary, but we can share that info. All right.
Okay, Mulumba, I hope that answers your question. You will be getting a list of mentors.
It would be nice to, it would be nice to know where Mulumba is. Is he in the process of registration or is just a graduate engineer? It would be nice to know, because I'm a mentor myself, and I think Vishal is a mentor as well. It will also be interesting to know where he's staying, in which area of, around the country he's staying, because then we can identify relevant mentors in this respective area as well.
Okay, so it would be great if the list actually had a geographical outline, so that people know where the mentors stay and work. Okay, thank you so much for that. That's a good point. Someone was thanking Vishal for the presentation. Okay, and then Tommy says, a question for Vishal. How does SAICI manage to deal with member apathy? You talked of taking the lead and taking initiative, but if you call for meetings and members don't attend, or have very little interest. How does SAICI deal with that? A very excellent presentation, Vishal. Thank you, from Engineer Tammy. So let me make sure that I read the question so that you understand it. How does SAICI manage to deal with member empathy? You talked of taking the lead and taking initiative, but if you call for meetings and members don't attend or have very little interest, how does SAICI deal with that? So basically, you've got all these brilliant ideas that you want to share. You want to make people's professional journeys easier, but then they show absolutely no interest. How do you deal with that? That's my understanding of the question.
Yeah, that answer I could write a book on, I'll be honest with you. Now, apathy, when I look at apathy, it comes from two sides. Apathy is a disconnect between the individual and perhaps the environment that they are in. Now, SAICI can play many roles. Now, personally, when I talk about the active citizen, I'm relating it back to an individual that might be apathetic, but now converting it into a purposeful behavioral attributes. So when I talk about purpose, I need to continuously communicate purpose as to why someone should believe that something is important. Now, the only way I can be sure of making a person change their apathetic approach is to firstly give a sense of positive, because we respond well to positive energy. So my conversations are positive. The second thing is I behave with integrity. In other words, what I say I do, and I don't let a member down, because each member is valuable in their own right, and we don't look at members as numbers. That's the first thing, right? So when a person has a sense of apathy, that means they're disconnected from, for example, SAICI, in the case that you asked the question. So that means SAICI, it could go one of two ways. SAICI could be irrelevant. In other words, what I'm bringing out there means nothing to a person. That could be a case, one extreme. Second extreme is the person is not connecting with the issues at hand and cannot relate to the dynamics of the environment and the context they are in. So I need to make sure that what I put on the table, and myself and Fana and all the team at National Office, relates to the needs and the wants of members and addresses the issues. So relevance has to come in and number one. So that's where we connect at. We connect on the issue of relevance. And then I got to unpack that into various initiatives that now start to make sense to a member. And if still there's a disconnect, then I would appreciate a conversation. And that's what I can offer. Having a conversation with a member as to what they think is so fundamentally wrong with what we are putting on the table. But the point is, we have to connect with the members. And on the back of finding purpose, because remember, apathy could be just also a sense of depression, which could be caused by other factors of why you are apathetic, or you don't really care, or you're not interested. It's not necessarily always SAICI that could be the cause of apathy. It could be your environment, it could be a sense of hopelessness from other sources as well. I'm not saying we can offer that kind of guidance in terms of clinical therapy, but what we can do is offer you a sense of purpose with regard to your profession. And that's what I can do, and hopefully that can even improve other aspects of one's life. And consistency would count as well, in addition to integrity and being consistent in what we're doing. And I think that's one thing I can stand for as part of SAICI. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. I hope that addresses Tammy's question. So Tammy, please know that you are not just a number in SAICI, but that you are seen as the individual that you are, and that SAICI will do all it possibly can to help you with progression of your career and motivation and encouragement. I'm going to ask if participants can please indulge us in 10 more minutes. We're running out of time. I'll try and go through the questions as quickly as we can. Kevin was asking about what SAIC can do to provide young engineers who are losing their jobs. I think we've addressed that already. And Duncan says, is the drop in economy tax revenue from 2008 not rather an indication of disinvestment in the country? I'm assuming that that would be for Fana, that speaks to his presentation. In 30 seconds, if you can. Sorry, President.
No problem. Thank you so much. I think if you can remember, around 2008, there was also a downturn in the economies of the world. So countries had economic challenges. And I think that's my view where the drop of the income came from. But we will remember that immediately after that, our economy picked up as we were preparing for the World Cup in 2010. So the curve did move up a bit if you look at the GDP curve. So, but I think it was to do with the economic downturn around the world at the time.
That is a global economic issue. Thank you so much for that. And while we still have you there, someone wants to know, under one of your presidential themes is youth entrepreneurship. As you have discussed, the surge in unemployed youth, some of which are qualified civil engineers. What vehicles under your tenure as president will you be implementing through SAIC for the active involvement of youth in industry as business owners, professionals, and leaders in transformation? That's from Mbongeni, and you've got 30 seconds. My apology.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think it's an important question indeed, because this is for me where I think our country should be going a lot more. Actually, maybe one should talk to the head of departments at the universities to have a course on entrepreneurship as part of the curriculum of civil engineering, and that's something that I think we have missed. I think it should be there so that as a student enters the university, they already have the mentality of someone who's going to go into entrepreneurship. Because a lot of time, the student thinks about ESCOM, they think about Transnet, they think about Sandral. There's nothing wrong with Sandral. I'm not saying there is something wrong, but I think this entrepreneurial spirit should actually be in there as well. I'm mentoring a lot of young people who are thinking about this kind of route. And I'm actually trying to link them with people who are already involved in some of the industry where they've got interest. I think that's what I'm trying to do as well. Thank you.
And vouch to that. You've already sent a couple my way, so thank you so much. I think having entrepreneurship as a course at university is something that is definitely missing from our current curriculum. For Mr. Issa, as much as Sanral is talking about transformation, it just remains a talk. The boards on national roads remain the same for years. How is that they don't have incumbent program for us up and coming consulting and contractor entrepreneurs who are also qualified and experienced? We're going back to the question of inequality. Mr. Esther?
Yes, 350 years of inequality won't be solved in 20 years. It's going to take us time. As Black people, we were held down considerably in the past, and our potential is now coming to the fore. And we need to be a little more patient of these things. On our side, for the consultants, we've kept our community development projects only for Black consultants, EMEs and QSEs, to a large extent only EMEs. So the community development projects we're doing in that manner. And then what I've shown earlier on the routine road maintenance contracts, those are for EMEs as well. And part of our bigger projects where we have construction design and things, we created a new entity, as we call it, the targeted enterprise. So 30% of the design work in those cases has to be given to targeted enterprises, and targeted enterprises that are defined as 51% back owned as a minimum. And they must go across the whole value chain. So it's not only, they don't only get involved in the design side, but also in the supervision of construction, monitoring of the project as well. So that's compulsory, and all projects are with that. So we've done that on that point of view. Then we have our academy, which we set up in PE, where we train young engineers through first our bursary students, and we're also doing it for some of the municipalities and provinces. We take them through a design phase that it makes it easier to register. We've pushed through now something like 40 or 50 through the process over the last few years. We intend increasing the capacity there now is for 35 candidates. We're increasing the capacity of that over the next few years to 100. So we can push through 100 at a time. And we have them there for 18 months. So that's the other aspect we're doing for young engineers. And then once they come out of university, we employ them for a period of 5 years. We take them through the whole value, or let's say the whole life cycle to be able to register. So you go to the practical side, you work in one of the central offices as a project manager. So you get the whole aspect from assessing the road, looking at the designs, putting it out to tender, evaluating tenders, going on site if there's time for you to be an assistant resident engineer. And then thereafter you come back and you project manage in one of the offices. So over those 5 years, we give you sufficient exposure and training in order to register. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is quite a bit of work we are now trying to give the smaller entities that need the impetus to grow. So that's what we're doing. So I'm not sure what boards is talking about. Yes, I agree. Some of our signboards are old. I don't think it was that board he was referring to. I'm not sure what boards they are. There are no boards except our board of directors that I'm aware of that are reserved for anybody. So all our tenders go out on open tender process, and you compete on price and preference. Thank you.
I hope that your board of directors is actually transformed, maybe to address the question that they might have been asking. And we acknowledge the fact that you are trying to develop a strong pipeline of upskilling and preparing candidates for directorship and managerial positions within the institution.
Yes, we are. Just on the boards, our board have a 3-year term, and our board is largely made of non-executives, and they are appointed by the minister. So they only stay there for 3 years, so they're not there for a long time.
Okay.
And they are transformed, both in a race point of view and also in gender point of view.
Okay. Thanks for that. This one is for SAICI. It says, with many companies no longer assisting engineers to pay SAICI membership fees or CPD courses, what is SAICI doing to assist the engineers in maintaining their professional registration? Shall I give that to the CEO in 30 seconds, please?
Yes, thanks. I think payment of a fee is different from a sense of belonging to an institution. In my mind, I think the individual needs to extract value from this, and it's a personal decision. I think if one relies on an institution to pay your fee, and that's a great thing from an institution point of view, I think it's really up to the individual to see the value of what SAICI is going to do for them and do for the members going forward. It's not just about CPD. I think I'd like to make the point, CPD is but one part of it. There's a lot of engagement, a lot of technical capacitating that is happening, a lot of industry awareness. And we're speaking about, for example, entrepreneurial, how do we support entrepreneurs? If you're not part of the institution, you're not going to be part of these conversations. And I think perhaps if I give another 30 seconds to elaborate in the, and connect it with what the S is saying, is that, as youth, you have the potential to be a lot more innovative. I'm hearing conversations a lot along the existing paradigms that we are having, such as start a company, bid for SANRAL work, and all of these things. But there's opportunity to think differently. Using technology, for example, how can we make the design process a lot simpler, a lot faster? That would make us a lot more cost competitive using fourth industrial revolution concepts, using blockchain, for example, and integrating much better. Smaller firms are a lot more flexible with younger people who are a hell of a lot smarter than I am, that can work with technology and actually compress supply chains, compress processes such that it becomes a lot more value adding, and you become suddenly in a new space. And I think we shouldn't, shouldn't be hung up on existing paradigms on how we actually secure work in the country, but think very innovative on what technology is there and how you can best use it for your own purpose. Thank you.
Thanks for that. So let's think out of the box instead of being caught up in how historically we've been approaching employment and entrepreneurship, basically. This question is from Johan Dikoke, my mentor. I'm very, very lucky to have a mentor. And he says, Vishal, how do you think should SAICI prepare and grow our registered members in middle management for greater roles in our industry and all levels of government? Important question.
That's a big question. It's sort of linked in a way to the previous question, to some extent, and I think it relates to entrepreneurs as well. I think that the institution, and I think, I wouldn't say I think, it's incorrect. I know, and that's what I believe, and that's what I will be doing, is to ensure that an individual or a member that belongs to SAICI is not belonging in a fragmented approach. If you look at what SAICI does, there's various bits and pieces and various initiatives that one can embark on. But very soon, I would like to propose, and perhaps it's a question that I could pose to the members on this call, is that SAICI provides the vehicle for you to further your complete holistic career through the various stages of your membership. In other words, if you are a member looking to work as a technical director at SANRAL, SAICI will provide the full suite of support required for you to reach that objective. And that is what I am exploring now. It is a discussion point, not implemented yet, but that's what I'm exploring. In other words, looking after our members holistically. And it's de-linked from an employer, because as we can see, our members are always transcending employers. So it doesn't make sense to rely on a corporate to pay the fee, for example, which was one of the questions. And it doesn't make sense for a member to be apathetic, for example, because your career is your own, and the member owns his career or her career. And the vision that they set for themselves will be enabled through SAICI, and that's what we're exploring now. So that if you want to be a chief executive, or you want to be a director of a company or a director of a business, SAICI will provide the opportunities for you to achieve those milestones, in addition to having a professional engineer status with EXA, in addition to being a student and being an assistant engineer before you register. So it's about mapping and bringing home a whole suite of solutions that will eventually lead to an individual chopping and changing between public and private, as well as being able to ensure that their careers are managed through and their visions are enabled, obviously on the back of clients like SANRAL, providing the work opportunities, which is very necessary to have that happen. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. So SAICI will offer a full suite of support to help professionals get to whichever level that they aspire to get into. Moving on to Refua's question, why are we still having huge requirements of returnables, especially on general requirements, while we have CSD system? Would that be for Mr. Issa, I would think, with regards to procurement within SANRAL? Why are we still having huge requirements of returnables, especially on general requirements, while we have a CSD system?
We want to set up in our electronic tendering that we would have a pre-qualification where all these, as you say, the certificate, the tax requirements, and all of those to be pre-submitted in the near future, so that you put that in once, and when your V certificate expires, you put the next one in and things like that. So we want to go that way. So we almost pre-select or pre-qualify tenderers to be able to tender. So you don't have to submit all of those things again. So the problem and the obstacle we have is the procurement rules with COVID requirements. They want to see paper copies now. So how shall I say, the legislation, the rules have to be changed to accommodate for this. So once those are done, it will become a little easier. But currently now, the rules don't allow us to put those in place now. The CSD, as reliable as it is not foolproof. That's what we found. People can mess around with that. The only information that is solid there, that it can't be interfered with, is your tax information, but other things can be sort of fudged. So I would think that if something more rigid and something more, let's say, robust can be put in place on an electronic basis, then we can move away from the paper base. But we also have strong rooms full of paper that we don't like. I think we're one of the biggest customers of these keep filing institutes or companies with the amount of paper that we produce generally. Certainly, it's not unnoticed for us, and it will be addressed as soon as we can get the powers that be to change legislation to accommodate that. Thank you.
Okay, so it's a legislation issue. Okay. The next one, it's a comment basically from Dan. He says, we would like to see more site visits, use of visual visits as well for our learners. That's noted. And then the others, it's not really questions. Alison Lawless, who is a big part of SAIC, who says, can anyone wishing to be mentored rather submit their details than ask for a list? It will be better for SAIC to help with matching candidates and mentors. Outline support needed, such as registration support, coaching on a specific topic, need for career advice, location, and sub-discipline in which you work. For example, geotech rail, which I think maybe it's something that we can look into. Vishal? Is there an email or something that people can send this information to, those who are requiring mentorship and those who are willing to be mentors, so that they can be a matchmaking? Is that something that's doable?
Yes, it is. And we can share that email address.
Okay. All right. And says, hello, just to take it back, how can we assist the engineers that are now unemployed and looking forward to register as professionals? Okay, we've already addressed that one. A very excellent presentation by Fana, especially the asset life cycle cost. I personally think most jobs can be created from rehabilitation of existing structures. Who advises the government regarding maintenance strategies? Mr. Essa, would you be willing to take that one?
Generally, maintenance is something the institutions look at themselves. There's no sort of advisory within government. What we found is that certain institutions don't understand the importance of maintenance in time. They do maintenance a lot of times too late. It's like a certain roads agency was 10 years ago saying, and publicly saying in newspapers and in the media, that they had fixed 10,000 potholes or 15,000 potholes. When you fix potholes, that's too late. You shouldn't get the potholes. So that's where the maintenance comes in. And so the issue is that people need to understand why you do maintenance. And a simple example would be your car. Why do you service it at certain intervals and things like that? It's to prevent the engine from blowing. It's a big cost. But when it comes to roads and things like that, a simple example I can give you: if you do the maintenance in time, it will cost you 1. If you delay that maintenance by 3 years, it will cost you 6. If you delay that maintenance by 6 years, it will cost you 18. That's just on roads. And those are the kinds of things that people need to understand. I think also the people that issue out the budgets don't really understand that you need money for maintenance. It's like the guy says, you spend 200 million, an MEC says, you spend 200 million on this road. Why should I give you another 10 million every year to maintain it? You build it effectively and things like that. So the decision makers in government need to be educated on the importance of maintenance. I think that's primarily where the problem lies. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Richard says SAICI does not represent members in the public sector and does not understand the constraints under which we work. I wish he had elaborated a little bit more so that his query could be addressed by the CEO or the president. And then Victor says, in addition to the entrepreneurship course, I'd suggest financial literacy, as it is an aspect that we don't understand. And that would have been for Fana suggestion with regards to including entrepreneurship at university level. We're going to end it there. I hope that everyone has had an opportunity to have their questions answered. Sorry, we ran over time. I would like to conclude our event by stating that we currently have 3,279 members, and we welcome new members in so that they can come and benefit from all that SAICI has to offer. Our branch is young, it's vibrant. We've got youngsters who are into 4IR, and they've got incredible solutions that they are bringing. If you want to be part of such a branch, please contact us. We also have CSI initiatives which are geared towards the youth, because that's what we do. We do the young people. Bophelong Children's Home, where we're looking after a home which looks after about 50 children. If you would like to contribute towards it, please go to our website and you can have a look at what we do and how you can contribute. We also offer maths and science tutorials at Cosmos City through Dream Child. If you'd like to know how you can participate there as well, please go to our website and you can be in touch with us. We've got exciting events that are coming up. We've got a Women in Hard Hats, which is happening this Saturday, so make sure not to miss it. We've got a great lineup with Dr. Ramu Hopa from the Presidency's office, who's going to be addressing us, as well as two phenomenal, strong women who will be addressing us on women disrupting engineering, and also women in engineering, how innovative we tend to be. And I would like to acknowledge all the effort that has gone into putting this event together, starting with National Office. Thank you so much for your support. To our panelists, you've been great. Thank you so much for imparting invaluable information to us. I'd like to thank our team, our Johannesburg branch team, Karabo, who's the deputy chairperson. He's always behind the scenes, but he's such an anchor for us. We truly appreciate it. Refilwe Lidiga, who's our media guy, the one who makes sure that these events go as seamlessly as they seem to be going, but there's a lot of work that goes behind it. And would also like to thank Priska, who made sure that the event was marketed, and Tabeleng as well from National Office. Thank you so much, everyone. We truly appreciate it. I wish you health, I wish you safety, and until we meet again, be blessed. Thank you.